Research and NEP 2020. I welcome the in-charge principal of our college, Srimati Monica Ranjana Madam, organizer Dr. Pralaj Chaudhary sir, and coordinator Dr. Kanyakumari Madam, and faculty members and participants of today's session. I request Monica Madam to address the session.
Good evening to all the participants of the national level PDP on intellectual property rights and its significance in business innovation. A warm welcome to Srimati Prabhavati Rao, the speaker for today's session. On behalf of the principal, staff, and students of Sarladevi College, I congratulate the organizing committee for hosting this 3-day national level seminar. We had Dr. Farah Diba as the guest speaker on the 11th of April on the topic Demystifying the IP Spectrum and Emphasis in the NEP 2020. It was very enlightening and informative. On the second day, we had Dr. Kumudini Ravindra explaining at great length about Innovation Ecosystem and Business Transformation 2020, which was equally enlightening. Today, we have Srimati Prabhavati Rao, who is going to elaborate on the topic of geographical indications as a powerful IP tool impacting grassroots. I look forward to this session with great expectations. I also hope that this session is useful and helpful to all the participants. Wish you all the best. Thank you.
Now I welcome Srimati Prabhavati Rao, today's resource person, addressing on geographical indications as a powerful IP tool impacting grassroots. Now it is the time to introduce the brief profile of Srimati Prabhavati Rao, facilitator and IP Rights Initiative, ETPC, Department of Industries and Commerce, Government of Karnataka. Srimati Prabhavati Rao holds a master degree in economics for the Central University of Hyderabad, besides various certifications in intellectual property rights from the World Intellectual Property Organizations, Geneva, Switzerland. In her current role at VTPC, Government of Karnataka, since over the past 10 years, 3 months, she facilitates the intellectual property rights initiatives and has been closely involved in sensitization drives, training and nurturing the intellectual property fabrics of various stakeholders across the state, representing academia, industry, and others in conjunction with IP specialists in the domain. As a catalyst, she has spurred the launch of IP cells in academic institutions. She has also been closely involved in policy initiatives, including the State Geographical Indications Policy, which was unfurled in May 2019. Karnataka is a pioneer in the country in coming out with the first of its kind policy specifically to promote artisanal products. Her past experience shows that 3 decades of career experience, and in her previous roles, she served as a corporate communication professional for esteemed organizations, including the Confederation of Indian Industry, the Institute of Chartered Financial Analysts of India, Magna Carta Info, among others. She brings a rich blend of research, audio, visual, and print media experience in her career trajectory. Among her soft skills, she was a radio jockey for the youth channel of All India Radio Hyderabad back in time. She is the recipient of the Outstanding Performance Award at India's leading IT staffing company, Magna Infotech. This is brief introductory part of Srimati Prabhavati Rao. I welcome for this session. Welcome, madam.
Thank you so much. Friends, can I begin?
Yeah, madam. Please, go ahead.
And please let me know if the slides don't move. Okay. Yeah. So extremely happy, friends. Good evening. Back to be here on day 3, the concluding day of the national level PDP. And I hope that the past 2 days have been as enriching, as you may have experienced with other programs as well. So back representing here the Visvesvaraya Trade Promotion Center under the Department of Industries and Commerce. And while you heard from me a brief intro on the organization that I represent, however, for the quick benefit of all the others, a recap, I'd like to take you through our organization. I think the slideshow will not work. That's okay. So let's not get distracted. There's some issue here. Okay. So friends, I'm not sure how many of you are aware that not many states in the country have an exclusive export promotion center. So Karnataka is blessed to be one of those states where there's an exclusive nodal agency which supports exports. Yes, exports do happen because, as you know, that it is a central government subject. However, the center and the state both have a lot of schemes and initiatives for the budding entrepreneurs and exporters from which they could leverage. However, exports as exclusively, a department or a unit under the government bureaucracy is something very rare. So that's VTPC here for you. We have been here since 1971, and the primary charter is to promote international trade. We were known as VITC earlier, but then that gave a connotation of only domestic trade because we were called as Visvesvaraya Industrial Trade Promotion. But now we thought that it's international, we have to broaden our horizons, and that's how Visvesvaraya Trade Promotion Center, that's how we expanded. And these are our core functions, which I had already explained in brief to you. So very high on generation of sensitization drives, how to get into exports, what are the first steps, because there are many people now, the trends are changing, my dear friends. Gone are the days when, we used to think that people who have actually got entrenched in industry, who are doing pretty well, they are the ones who may now look to foray into exports. But that's not true anymore. We, in our experience, find a lot of youngsters, be it startups or even college students and professors. Many of them have been coming in and saying that they want to get to export, start exporting. Reasons are plenty. Of course, as I said, it is a very lucrative profession, no doubt. But then, as I was saying, both the center and the state provides you with a lot of incentives and schemes. And another aspect for Karnataka is, as I had mentioned the other day also, we are a state which has given several firsts to this nation in several spheres of the economy. So when you talk about potential in terms of products or services, it's plenty. In fact, we are the export of software services, we are number 1. We contribute more than 40%. And similarly, if you look at precision engineering and tools, we are number 1 there. We are the R&D cluster, 4th largest R&D cluster in the world. We have a very strong presence in automobile, aerospace, even floriculture, coffee. We are also a coffee hub. I'll come back to that later, and with an interesting connect with the geographical indications as well. So with all this very high potential that the state presents and represents, I think it's time that all the youngsters of the day start looking at exports in a big way. So these are some of our activities which I've put out there as a snapshot. So capacity building, as I was saying, export management training programs at incisive 6 days is something which every entrepreneur who wants to get into export must take this program. So because everything there, whether it's customs, the documentation processes, packaging, pricing, costing, and the various sectors which are budding, how do you go about it? What are the nuances? That's what we provide you as a capsule in those 6 days, including a live visit to the airport or container depot to get a live hands-on feel of how it's to get into exports. We also have a market development assistance scheme for exporters, which we have announced in our industrial policy. And the current one, which is going on, is a 2020 to 25 policy. So anyone who wants to go abroad on a foreign delegation, they can avail the scheme. This is a very attractive one. And a lot of exporters say that this particular scheme has helped them in many ways, to get shortcut route to success in international markets. We also facilitate the special economic zones from the state, the export-oriented units. We have a policy also for SEZs. And we have, more SEZs in the IT and ITES space in Karnataka, besides, of course, biotechnology, some in food, pharma, and others. Then we have this scheme called TIES, which is Trade Infrastructure for Export Scheme, which is linked to the export infrastructure. This scheme was earlier called as ASIDE, which is a central government scheme, and wherein BTPC from the state is the monitoring and implementing agency. So which means that any agency, any kind of institute which is conducting some kind of an activity which is linked to the export mandate, they can avail the scheme. In fact, I must tell you that in Karnataka, a couple of academic institutions have also in the past availed the former ASIDE scheme, where it was an export mandate. Like one particular college in town here, they have set up this jewelry design center under this scheme. Similarly, in Dharwad, a leading agricultural university has also availed the scheme with the export mandate. And as I was telling you, there was this big call about this $5 trillion economy as to how the services sector can live up to that, how they are going to contribute. And Government of India had identified 24 potential service sectors, of which Karnataka shortlisted 6 of them. And for these 6, we prepared action plans along with the respective departments. And you'll be happy to know that among these services sector, which we believe are going to be the prominent leading lights, one of them is the education space. So education service sector is something where there's a lot of potential. We've also worked on the health and wellness sector. We have worked on remittances and immigrations, on logistics, on media and entertainment, and also on the construction and allied engineering services. These 6 sectors have first been zeroed upon. And how do we recognize the contribution of the meritorious and budding exporters of the day? So we have a signature event under the Honorable Chief Minister of Karnataka, and that's called the Annual Export Awards for Excellence. And this is one event which the exporters, they look forward to, because that's how their creativity, their ingenuity gets recognized. And I was telling you, we actually implement the state's industrial policy pertaining to the exports chapter. We implement schemes. And the geographical indications policy, as was already mentioned, Karnataka is the first state in the country. We are the pioneers in coming out with a special, one of its kind GI policies for the country, where we are trying to help the artisans get a leg up. And then we were talking about some Atmanirbhar initiatives, under talking about vocal for local, local to global. So under that, we have a couple of initiatives for the exports as well, where geographical indications will play a very important role. I'll come back to that. And of course, as I'm representing the IP initiative here today, we do sensitize stakeholders across the spectrum of academia, industry, startups, NGOs, be it any kind of an audience of fraternity. We are happy to sensitize as to why IP, what IP, how IP, and how it's extremely important to be aware of your intellectual rights. Because there are examples aplenty, to say that if you are not aware of your rights, then there will be poachers, there will be infringers on your intellectual property rights tools. And India has been a classic case of showing to the world that we mean business, and how we have guarded our turf when it came to, say, traditional knowledge cases like neem and turmeric. You have heard about all this. How India won those battles. I would say the primary reason is we were aware of our rights. So let's be aware of it, my dear friends. It's only then that we can protect our IP tools and our IP rights. So quickly, just another slide on the organization I represent. These are the major imports and exports of the state, as you can see there. And I was telling you that software services, we lead in the country. You have aerospace and defense, we're very strong there, precision engineering, ready-made garments, coffee and processed foods, cashew, rose onion, gherkins, all of that. So if you want to get into exports, you can look at these major sectors where exports are happening, and does not mean that there are no more potential sectors. There are more actually. So those are the ones where youngsters can also look at and see how we can grow them. And then you can see the major imports also there. Coming to today's topic, geographical indications as a very significant IP tool. In fact, experts have said, my dear friends, that GIs, geographical indication, is a sleeping beauty of the intellectual property tool basket. It's a sleeping beauty because it needs to be woken up. And not much is spoken about it in forums, although times are now changing, with a lot of thrust being given to the GIs as well as an important IP tool, and as impacting the artisanal products and the roots. So we need to wake up, all of us together. And this is one particular IP tool which I believe, my dear friends, everyone in this country, everyone in the state can add their bit, contribute in their own small ways, just by being a brand ambassador, like spreading word of mouth. That itself is more than enough. Talk GI, walk GI. I hope after this session, all of you would get into that and try to think as to how you can start contributing in your own small ways. So I'm sure you basically have heard about geographical indication tag products. So these are specific indications which represent originating from a particular region or locality. That is why in most cases, if you see, the name of the region is also is like a prelude, to the particular product. Like when you say, let's say peda, so we say Dharwad peda. In most cases, sometimes it may not have a prefix, but then it represents from the particular region or locality. So when I say Dharwad peda, when I say Cool Orange, when I say, let's say Chatpatna toys, so it means that it is being produced, it should be produced from that particular region which has been mapped for that particular product. So there's always a GI map provided to every GI product. So sometimes, it could be border cases. Let's say, like, for example, Kolhapuri chappals. So history says that this GI, has historical documents with both Karnataka and Maharashtra. So that is why the name there is Kolhapuri chappal. But Karnataka, the Madhvavi, Athani regions, Belagavi, Vijaypura, these districts have been mapped in the GI map for Kolhapuri chappal, stating that historical evidence was found there as well. So that is why it can happen that more than 2 or 3 states also can share a particular GI if they are cases of the border states. We have Malabar pepper as an example also. Basmati, if you look at all India, we have examples there where a couple of states, a bunch of them, 5 to 6 of them hold the GI. But necessarily it represents a particular region. So when I say Kinhal toys, it has to be, and it is produced in the Koppal region, in the mapped area. We cannot be producing it in Bangalore or Bagalkot and claim that it is a Kinhal toy. Then that becomes a different toy. Then probably we'll have to look at a potential, whether it's a potential GI where, let's say in Bagalkot also there was a toy which has a historical evidence. It's been there for ages. So main key in the GI processes, my dear friends, it should have a very long-standing history. It should have documentation, historical evidences. Right. So I think that speaks it all. So we all know that, all of us know that India was a founder member of the WTO way back in time. We had signed as a founder member in 1994. And GI is one of the chapters, the trade-related intellectual property rights. TRIPS is one chapter where you have the GI clauses also. And we are governed by a sui generis legislation, the Act of 1999. So we have an Act of Parliament where it lays down the rules of the game for the GI producers, for the artisans, for the filers, and all of them. And there was an amendment recently during COVID time, which actually, eased the burden of a couple of activities, like, for instance, the authorized user, which I'll come back to later. Those were simplified. The forms were simplified, and even the amount that was being charged was slashed off. So if you look at the global canvas internationally, there are many, popular ones. I've just put out a few of them in terms of the fact that these are some of the international GIs which became very popular commercially also. The success of a GI is commercial viability at the end of the day. So Idaho potatoes from the US, I understand, is a case of a successful commercialization. Similarly, there are a lot of cheeses which have got GI tags, worldwide, but Roquefort cheese is one of the popular ones, which has a, brilliant history of how it is done, the unique process, something unique and novel about it, how in the caves, we have heard, during our childhood in geography books about stalactites and stalagmites, right? So these cheeses have undergone a process there in those caves. And that's how that particular texture, the taste, which is absolutely attributable, we can attribute it to the specific geography, to the water, the soil, the climate, and all of these. It's linked to the geography. Similarly, Pingu peaches, I understand, in the Beijing region, that's another successful case of how it's been commercialized successfully. Georgian wine, about champagne, Swiss watches, Colombian coffee, these are all popular GIs of the world. As on date, as I talk to you, there are 475 GIs registered with the GI registry. And some of the popular ones that come to my mind I have put out here. Darjeeling tea, of course, as you all may be aware, is the first GI to be registered in India. And this is a successful case of how a GI went global. You go to any part of the world, most of the matured markets, and you will find a Darjeeling tea on the menu charts. That is how we have to look at each GI scaling up to international standards and benchmark and visibility. Oranges, yes, we have Nagpur oranges also as a GI, and back home we have Coorg oranges also, which has a GI tag. Similarly, that particular wheel, that Konark temple, that was awarded a GI tag. And then you have the Rasgulla. And when Rasgulla comes to mind, I'm sure all of you may be remembering the controversy. A lot of people are not aware of the second part of the controversy. People think that there was a war between Bengal and Orissa, and then, there's a confusion who got it. Well, let me tell you, both the states were awarded GI tags for Rasgulla for their respective Rasgullas. So there was no question of any battle actually. Orissa claimed that in the Jagannath Puri temple, historical evidence is there, they were serving it as prasadam. And Bengal said, well, the world knows that, this mishti is popular to us, home to us. So when it was examined, the applications, it was clear that both the states were talking about their respective rasgullas, which have special unique features separately. So there was no link between the two, and both of them got the tags. And then you have the Pashmina shawl, which I would also consider as one of the finest examples after Darjeeling tea. I would say that it has attained that kind of a benchmark quality. They have set up standards so that, customers do not get fooled. They have the QR code, RFID, and all of that. The control mechanisms are very stringent. So the government has ensured that this all happens, so that standards are met with. Basmati rice, all of us know, 6 or 7 states jointly hold that. Then you have that Fulkari embroidery. You have the Kathputlis of Rajasthan, and you have Madhubani paintings, some of them that have put out, then Alfonso mangoes. You have Tanjo paintings, Mysore traditional paintings, and so many of them. And this pineapple that I've put out there is the Kerala's Varakulam, it's called pineapple, you must have heard. So that also in the crop segment, agriculture segment, got a GI tag. And the Coimbatore wet grinder, that particular stone has some special feature about it. And it has historical evidence as well. That's how it's got a tag. Coming to our national context, my dear friends, back in 2016, that was the first time that India got its national IPR policy announcement. This is the first time in the country when IP was taken note of and officially a policy was announced by the Union Commerce Minister, and the Indian GI logo subsequently came out. That's the orange and green one, which you can see. That is the GI logo. And as I said, 475 GIs, and these are spread across agriculture, handicrafts, manufactured goods, food products, and natural goods. These are the 5 classifications under which GIs with a very, very robust historical evidence, point number 1, have got the tags. Now, if you look at Karnataka's GI basket, we had 42 plus 4. Now it is 44, because just recent announcement is that Kari Ishad mango and Indi lime were added to our list of GI products. So this is the breakup that Karnataka has. We have 4 logos also which have been granted the status of GIs as per the old regime of GI registry, where the 4 logos also were accorded as a special recognition of an effort. And these are those 4 products which have logos also. And Karnataka, you'll be happy to know, is the GI hub of the country, because 5 out of 7 GI coffees registered in the country are from Karnataka. And Mysore is the GI hub, not just of Karnataka, but I would say it is a GI hub of India, because 9 GIs emanate from one region. And perhaps experts tell me, of just unofficially, that perhaps you never know, Mysore could also be rated as one of the unique places with the highest number of GIs in the world. Because from one particular region, so many GIs emanating. And I'm only saying Mysore. If I add the adjoining Coorg, Nanjangud and all of that, then, we'll be extremely happy, but I don't want to do that. Let's take a look at the next 2 slides, my dear friends, and spend a bit of time here. Because with these collages that I've put out here, my objective is to ensure that all of you take away a slice of these products home, and they should be fresh, captured in your memory, in your eyes. I'm sure this is a feast to your eyes, and also as information. You may have known, you may have heard about many of these GIs, but perhaps you did not know that it is an intellectual property of the state, called as geographical indication tag product of that particular region. So I was talking about coffee and I was feeling proud about it. So let me dwell on that. So look at those 5. To my right, as I speak, we have 5 GI coffees: Baba Budangiri's, Chikmagalur Arabica, Coorg Arabica, Monsoon Malabar Arabica, and Monsoon Arabica. Now, all these coffees have something very special about it as far as the history is concerned, as far as the process is concerned. They have gone through a monsooning process. So that's why Monsoon Malabar. And I know the legend says that when these beans were being were shipped to some countries, on the way, because of the climate and all, the beans turned shape, and there was a swelling and fermentation. The process that was involved in that for making the particular coffee gave a rich aroma and flavor. That's how it got that tag. Similarly, when you say Baba Budangiri's, there's a legendary story behind it. How a seed planted 7 seeds, which he brought, there in that particular place. The texture, the flavor. So each of these coffees will have a different kind of a flavor, richness, the aroma, and all of that. Similarly, Coorg green cardamom. You may have heard about all these, but perhaps we now need to relate to it, saying that this is a GI, this is an IP. Similarly, if you look towards my left as I speak, so we have all these, some of these saris that are put out, and Mysore silk was the first registered GI of Karnataka. First registered GI. And of course, in the it is classified under handicrafts. While it is a textile weave, it is classified under the handicraft segment of the GI registry, Government of India. And then you have Ilkal saris emanating from the Bagalkot region. There's something special why it got it. It has a technique, that Kondi technique, the topi teni, the way the wharf and the Pallav portions are knit together. Those have a special history behind it, how it is done. And in fact, even the Molkal Muru saris, next to the Ilkal sari, that's from the Chitradurga region. So that's a silk sari with very, very elegant and rich designs. Then you have this Udupi sari. where a lone revivalist of traditional handloom, I would say, was trying to get it back on rolls, where from 5,000 and odd weavers, the number of weavers started dwindling. So this was a dying art, I would say, dying craft in the handloom sector, which people are now trying to notice and revive it. So I would urge my female fraternity in particular, and also the men here who are listening to us or watching us, that people please patronize them. We have no dearth of festivals, we have no dearth of occasions where we gift people, right? So look at a traditional sari like Udupi sari, which has been done by the artisans. Please connect with me for details if you want to get in touch with those artisans. So let's start patronizing these products. And similarly, Guled Gund Khana, North Karnataka. The Navalgund Daris from Navalgund region near Dharwad. So these are very, very special items, the way they have been done, the history of it, and how the manual processes till date are being executed. And if you look at some of the crops that I've put out here, you have heard of all of them. Lanjanpur Rasbale. Yes, it did have challenges, a couple of challenges. But then again, an academic institute actually revived it. And now, it's here to stay. So Bangalore blue grapes, very rich in a lot of vitamins, minerals, and all of that, and which is an exportable product. Appimedi mango, of course, is that pickle variety, and that's also got a GI tag. Devanhalli pomelo, the chakota, has got a tag. You have Kamalapur red banana, which of course has become seasonal. And Malabar pepper is shared by a couple of states, including Karnataka. Bailge chili, who doesn't know about it? Udupi Vattugala brinjal, Mysore beetle leaf, and then Areca nut, that got a special status with Sirsi Supari being registered from Karnataka. Then when you come to the jasmine varieties, we have 3 jasmine varieties from Karnataka: Mysore Malige, Hadgali Malige from Bellary region, and Udupi Malige, of course. All of them have different kinds of fragrance and different properties, something special from that region. In fact, I must tell you, my dear friends, as I address academia today, that Hadgali Malige, I'm proud to say, is a case of artisan base, meaning, there are 2 parts to every GI, right? So one is the GI being filed. So Hadgali Malige is the GI product which was filed. It got a tag. Now, part 2, part B of the register. Who can practice this particular crop or use this? Who can be called as a producer or a farmer or an artisan? Can you and me simply get into it? No. Because it's under the GI Act, recognizes an IP. You and me tomorrow cannot simply get into any of these products that I've listed out without going through the steps for registration. I'll come back to that. So Hadgali Malige, my dear friends, was a case where there was not a single farmer who was registered. Yes, GI was filed with the horticulture department, but there was not a single farmer who was registered in legal parlance as an authorized user. And at that point of time, during peak COVID, a government college from Bellary region contacted me, and in fact, they invited me to come over to the college, which of course all of us knew we couldn't. But virtually, we guided them, and because of them, we got 91 registrations of farmers for Hadgali Malige crop. So a very big round of applause from my side to academia, who have been very closely working with us in this journey of GIs. And there's a lot that all of us can together. Similarly, Gulbarga Turdal, just before the onset of COVID, got the GI tag. And when it comes to foodstuffs, the only GI that got a tag so far is Dharwad Peda, which was not Karnataka's, only Karnataka's first GI in foodstuffs, but all India. Dharwad Peda was the first GI in the foodstuff segment in the country as well. When you come to Kinhal toys, that's another beautiful toy from the Koppal region. And what is exciting to me about it is that till date, natural processes, manual processes are being used. They are retaining that particular tradition. You'll be happy to note that the bark of the tamarind tree, the seeds of the tamarind tree are crushed and the glue is made out of that. How beautiful can this be? So we're using natural processes, natural colors. The way they are doing it, it's all absolutely natural, which is being handed over from generations. Similarly, Chanapatna toys, all of us are aware. Lacquerware toys, that's a speciality about it. And from the Bidar region, Bidri ware products, you have a range of them. In fact, some of these GIs, while not all would obviously lend as a memento, but some of them you can pick up as gifts. And the beauty of some of these handicraft products is that you have a repertoire of products, a range of them from which you can pick and choose depending on your requirement. Karnataka bronze, I must say that while it was registered, who are the users of the GI? No, there's only one as of now registered. So if you happen to know the authentic producers from the region, Karnataka bronze, you can let me know, and we could try to see how we can register them as the producers for Karnataka bronze. As of now, after a lot of persuasion, I was able to get 3 applications which I facilitated to the GI registry on behalf of BTPC. When it comes to others, a couple of other popular GIs, you of course, who does not know the Mysore sandal soap, which has more than 100 years history, and which was filed by the Karnataka Soaps and Detergents Limited, a government body, and Mysore sandalwood oil also, and Mysore rosewood inlay, Mysore agarbatti. I was talking about the Mysore region as the hub, right? In not just the country, but the world perhaps. Mysore traditional paintings. Ganjiva cards of Mysore. This is another painting which I want to draw your attention to, which has a beautiful legendary history. And this is a waning and dying craft. So can all of us in our own ways ideate as to how we can promote, how we can give impetus to this particular craft? Because we don't want the rich history about it to just kind of vanish or languish, right? So we must just put our minds together, heads together to see how we can go about this. And I was talking to you about the uniqueness, like some, I've just put out a few of them just to tell you that whenever a GI gets a tag, there is something special about its, either the process it's done, the way it is done, or the particular, aided by some natural kind of ingredients that they use. All these aid in that. So when I say Bidri, the soil around the Bidar fort has high oxidizing properties. And because of that, that black color that you get is because of that particular soil which is available only around the Bidar fort. That is, this particular solution is dipped in that for that final finish. Ilkal sari, as I said, natural processes, and the waters of the rivulet Ilkal is used for bleaching the cotton and dyeing it. And then I told you about the Dopitoni technique and all the designs. So sometimes it could be the special designs that have been used that got a GI tag. Udupi sari, natural ingredients like, I remember reading that some of the leaves and bark of the trees are used, which is very, very soft, which comes out very soft. They use it as a particular tool, like a brush. Just to give you one small example there. And of course, maize and all that have been used. Natural ingredients, the agriculture products have been used for that particular sari, for strengthening it. And Kinhar toys, I told you, Janapatna, Kasuti embroidery. Now, Kasuti embroidery, if you want to really identify whether it's an original Kasuti or not, first remember, all of you, that it is not machine made. The original Kasuti, which we talk about as a GI tag product, is not machine made. It is hand woven. And there is no right or wrong side. That's how you make out whether it's the authentic GI Kasuti embroidery that we are talking about from the Dharwad region. And no tracing is done as per the GI specification, right? And there are more than 700 designs spanning categories like what I've put out there, Gandole, then the Kamala, Gopi Kamala, Chittu, all these are the different kinds of patterns and designs. You have peacock, elephants, then you have creeping lotuses and all that. And I told you about coffees already. What are the specialities? Now, few initiatives from the government of Karnataka Center for Export Promotion, what we have done. So let me first confess that we are in the first leg of our journey yet. Although we are the pioneers in the country in coming out with the first of its kind GI policy. I say the first leg of our journey because whatever we do, it's like a small drop in the ocean, because GI story is a very, very vast one where a lot needs to be done, and a single person or a single agency will not be able to do justice. And this, I believe strongly, people with passion and more minds and heads have to join hands together to make it a real success in the true sense of the term. I always believe that there are other IP tools, like a couple of them where when you talk about commercialization, it is a like individual, involved, let's say an attorney and all of that. But when it comes to GI, it is your community right. So in that sense, I believe strongly that only people with the real passion for the subject will be able to drive it and do justice and contribute their might wholeheartedly. I hope nobody begs to differ with me on this count. And so we were the first to announce the GI policy, as I said. And we have been nominated by the state as the nodal agency in the sense that we are a catalyst, or let's say a conduit, for facilitating the GIs from Karnataka. Now, some of the key highlights of the policy, it's a very simple one. Like we are basically talking about how to upskill the artisans, capacity building, skill development, then a big time, support for authorized users, what I was telling you. Then we have announced a market development assistance scheme because we have a lot of international trade fairs, domestic, national, all of that, where it could be exclusive GI exhibitions. It could not be exclusive, but there is a room for GI as well, where you provide a spotlight. So how do the artisans of GI products avail those particular schemes and attend those exhibitions where they could leverage as a platform to leverage their particular wares and their GI products. So this particular scheme will help them. And digital platform, we have been talking to e-commerce players, and we have signed up with a couple of them as to how we can onboard artisans onto e-commerce platforms. And this will get a major thrust also because of the initiatives like ODOP and all of that, which I'll come in a bit later. All these are integrated with that. We have also mentioned about branding, publicity, GI tourism in our policy, how we are going to do it. And impact studies, we have conducted a couple of them. I'll come back to that. And of course, the new GI filings. The policy lays down that we will encourage new GI filings to the state. So when it comes to authorized user drive, which I said that we said in our policy, let me tell you, my dear friends, that when the policy was not announced, we worked backwards. We were working on the policy, but we worked backwards. We told ourselves that as of 2018, the registered authorized users across all these products that I'm talking about was just 9, which means that when I say we have 42 or 44 products, for these 42, 44 products, the number of registered users were only 9 totally. And most of them, I would say 90 or 95% of these numbers were the filers. So whichever department, and incidentally, the government department, some of them had filed a couple of GIs in the handicrafts and horticulture and the agri segments. So they were the ones who had registered as authorized users in some cases. So majority were the filers and only very few were artisans. And if I remember right, there were only 2 artisans who were registered as GI authorized users. So in 2018, we said that then what is this policy for? We've started working, all right, but whom will this serve? Let us first identify who are our authorized users, who are the producers from the region, who are the artisans or artists from the region. And that's how we started our sensitization drives and educated the producers in the region, saying that these are your special products. These are GIs. So that way we were able to drive the authorized user base for Karnataka. And as I talk to you today, our number stands at 2030 registered authorized users Karnataka has across various crafts and crops. There is no level playing field. There is, like, if you see, if I have put out there, Ilkal saris, we were able to register maximum 1,317, thanks to the help of NGOs and others, like this number we were able to achieve. Then Vidriware, we know this again, an academic institute. My hats off to them for all the passion that they did. And they were the ones who helped us in doing this drive. And that's how together we were able to get this number of authorized users from that region. And Hadagali Malige, of course, I told you, a college from Ballari region helped us. Guled Khana, there was one, particular artisan who attended a program and he got in touch with me and wanted guidance as to how he could help his particular fraternity in the region to get this registration, which is a very simple process. It's basically 2 forms are there. I'll come back to that. And that is how with the help of like-minded people, we got these registrations done. In fact, before the amendment, each authorized user form would cost just actually 600 rupees for the artisan. We were sponsoring that. But later with an amendment, the GI registry said it's going to be only 10 rupees. That 10 rupees also will be slashed out. It was only to add value, that's it. So even now we are facilitating, and even then we were doing so. We will be happy to do that, my dear friends. Kolhapuri chappals, we were able to identify 61. But what I'm really sad about is that there are many more GIs, my dear friends, where all of us know, you and me know, that there is a huge fraternity behind it. And if I tell you that for Channapatna toys, we have been able to register only 34, 35, I'm sure you and me are shocked. Because Channapatna is a region where there are many producers working on that particular craft. But we have been able to register only 34, 35. Many reasons for that. So, I would say awareness generation is the key. And that's how we have to slowly try to see how we try to cascade this information. There may be a lot of your friends or well-wishers who may also be into one of these GI crafts. You must check with them if they have registered. Whether a producer or a trader, they need to register and go through some basic steps for the sanctity of the act, and also to do justice to the artisan base in the particular region. So other GIs also we have, different numbers, statistics. Now, when it comes to GI tourism that we announced in our policy, so what are we doing for that? So in the newly launched Terminal 2 of the Kempegowda International Airport, we negotiated for hotspots there in both the domestic and international bay. And we are going to set up a Karnataka pavilion, which would house the GI products and also some of the other heritage products of Karnataka. For this, work is under progress in terms of a lot of meetings with the bureaucracy. It's going on. And I think it's a matter of time when this will see the light of the day. So it's in work in progress mode at the moment. So after a few months, I assure you that when you fly in and out of Karnataka from the airport, people will be able to get a slice of the rich, exquisite treasures that Karnataka has. And I was telling you the GI awareness programs, this has been a continuous process, and we have been sensitizing stakeholders across some of these we have conducted so far, and we'll be happy to extend it to all the others as well. And we conducted diagnostic studies of some of these GIs. And here also I'm happy to tell you that some of these diagnostic studies, the contribution came from academia. So, I'm very happy with the academia because, I find a lot of potential, the interest, the passion there to do something, not just with a commercial bent of mind, but with a sense of a tempo actually to give back to the society as well. So some of these have been done by academia, some of them by like-minded NGOs who have worked on all these products and come out with basically a SWOT analysis as to what are the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats of these GIs and what kind of suitable interventions can be taken to uplift them. I was talking to you a while ago about this GI spotlight at exhibitions, right? So we ensure that most of the exhibitions, there is one showcasing or a spotlight or a bay that is exclusively dedicated to the GIs of Karnataka. So we have a flagship event called the India International Trade Fair, which happens in Pragati Maidan every year for 15 days, where all the states in the country put out their stalls. Karnataka also puts up its Karnataka Pavilion. And there are national, domestic, and international footfalls. And that is where we give exclusive stalls for GIs also we earmark. And that's how our GI artisans get some kind of a very, very rich platform, I would say. In fact, I remember well, a couple of years ago when we were trying to facilitate this, there was one particular GI product which we wanted to promote, which has potential, but it needs upliftment. And when these artisans went to IITF, it was the first time that they got a national international exposure. They never understood that 14 days, what it meant. They realized that in 3 or 4 days, all their products got sold out. And then they realized that, oh, there's another 8 more or 7 more days to go. They quickly syndicated stuff. They got more wares and they did some live demo there. And because of which they were able to, produce products also and sell them. So this is a beautiful way of showcasing and trying to give an impetus, giving a boost to the GIs of the state. And as I told you, MDA helps them, in this endeavor. And very proud and happy to tell you, my dear friends, that in the recently concluded India Geographical Indications Fair in August last year at Greater Noida, Karnataka bagged, VTPC on behalf of the government of Karnataka bagged the institutional award. And that was given for facilitating the maximum number of artisans from the state. And many, many more exhibitions, college festivals. We have concluded recently a couple of college festivals where we actually showcased GIs of Karnataka. So it was like a very good platform for the students and the fraternity, academic fraternity basically, and their audience who attended these festivals to get a slice and get a feel of the GIs of Karnataka and what they could do, how they could contribute to this story. I was telling you about the e-commerce enablement. So we have inked MOUs with some of these global majors. And one particular export initiative called Export Development Centers, EDCs, which comes under the Atmanirbhar. Under this particular e-commerce enablement has also been taken up, and we're working on that. ODOP, as you all know, that across the country, every state was asked to map one district to one product. Meaning, whichever is a potential one, please map it and let's start working on it. And in this particular ODOP, I'm happy to tell you that a couple of GI products also have found its way. For example, when it comes to Bidar, Bidriware was mapped. A GI product was mapped. Chitradurga, Molkal Muru was mapped. Bagalkote, Ilkal Sari was mapped. So I don't say that all GIs were mapped to ODOP because ODOP is like one district, one product, right? So we have to identify others also. But a couple of GIs got an entry into the ODOP list. And when it comes to developing districts as export hubs, so one may think, what about the other GIs as well? They also have potential. And not just GIs, it could be non-GIs. So where do they figure in for development? So you have this DEH, districts as export hubs, which says that you can have a basket, a portfolio of goods you can identify. If I say that, yes, these are the 6 to 8 to 9 products we have identified under this scheme, we want to promote. And of course, under this scheme, I'm happy to say most of the GIs have found its way. We are going to promote most of them under this. So special status is being also given because of the other schemes that are also coming up. Efforts towards new GI filings is one initiative that we are working on. And as I told you, 2 new GIs got registered from Karnataka, which were worked upon by some NGOs like the Kari Ishad Mango, and of course the Indi line, which was by one of the colleges, academia in the region, agricultural colleges. And we filed 1 GI product, Pateda Anchu Sari and fabrics from the Gajendragarh region, and which is under the examination process with the GI registry. And I'm hoping that the next time, probably when I speak to you after a couple of months, I should be able to tell you that this is a registered GI from Karnataka. So at the moment, it's under the examination process. Now, these are the 6 out of a basket of them. I have shortlisted 6. These are some of the 6 GIs that we have started working upon, and some of them are in a very good stage, ready to be filed. This GI filing process, my dear friend, is a little cumbersome process in the sense that nothing gets a GI tag so easily. Many times people say, now also I got a ping, saying that, like particular ghee in one particular region want to take a GI. So my first question was like, are you aware whether it has a very rich historical evidence? Do you think we will be able to get documentation? These were the first preliminary questions. She said, no, I've heard it's famous. So I said, we'll have to check on preliminary things. Documentation is the key. We know a lot of things are popular, but do we have the historical evidence to put it in hard paper from, let's say, the Gazetteer or from the Maharaja's time? Are there stories and anecdotes documented? Or are there other sources, be it, whichever form, digital or hardcore, wherever? Is there some kind of a repository where it has been documented? That is the first thing in the GI filing process. If it doesn't have that, no point in working on it. Number 2, if there are no artisans in that region producing it today, right? We may say that they were doing it long, long back. Today, as I talk to you, are there farmers existing for Kaga rice? Are there artisans for Kavi Kale? These are the questions we have to first ask ourselves. If we say no, then no point in working on that GI. Because GI is about the community, artisans. We have to first show that people are there doing it since generations, handed over. So if it is a case of a GI, like there's one GI which we have worked upon, I wouldn't like to name it, a very popular one which people know, but unfortunately we are struggling to file a GI for that. We have historical evidence that it was there, but we don't have artisans. So now the next step that is being done is artisans training is being given. So once that happens, we'll be able to say, put across artisans in the region, that particular map region, and then talk about how to revive that particular draft. But so remember, these are some of these, alerts that I'm giving you when we talk about a GI filing. Question yourself, do we have 1, 2, 3, 4, these important checklists? Are we fulfilling that? To also give you another example quickly about Hyderabad biryani. All of us know it's very, very popular. Just like pearls is to Hyderabad and Halim is to Hyderabad. We know Halim got a tag, and we know, so Hyderabad biryani, it did not get a tag. Incidentally, I had my studies from there and I was really shocked. Like I said, hey, how come this is so popular? Everyone knows. But then the reason was that while people knew that it's popular, the particular NGO which tried filing it failed to get the hard copy evidence, historical proof about Hyderabad biryani. And that's how today you can find it in the list of abandoned. There are different categories: abandoned, refuse, registered, pending, all of that. So under this abandoned category, we find that. So I feel still that if someone, irrespective of the state or region, picks that up, the particular application, tries to get documentation for it, I'm sure that GI also can see the light of the day. So that's how we need to look at how to do the filings. I was talking about authorized users, like it's mandatory that tomorrow, if you say that I belong to Channapatna region, I belong to Ilkal region, then you need to, if you want to be a producer, artist, artisan, or whichever terminology that we give, you need to ensure that you have taken a registration as an authorized user for selling your products or producing your products. So there are two categories here. One is a producer category, one is a trader category. I would like to talk more about the producers because they are the roots, they are the grassroots. So how to do a filing for a authorized producer in the region or an artist in the region? Very, very simple. Two forms, GI form 3A, and there's one more called the GI statement of case. That's about it. These two are very, very simple. Anyone who goes through it will understand that it's no rocket science. I'll be happy to share the checklists. And that is, I would urge all of you, whoever wants to get into it, to take this registration, which is very simple. And we have a lot of people visiting us in our office to understand how to file it, because they came to know that they are already practicing, but they never knew that there is something called an AU registration. So what the least all of you today can do is, if you know, or if you just, it strikes a bell that some of your friends are selling, let's say, Ilkal saris, first question you can ask them is, are you a producer? Have you taken a authorized user certificate? So they may be not aware. That's okay. So we can guide them. Or if somebody is selling it, without producing, so that person is a trader. So as per the GI Act, they need to take a registration for that also. So they can get in touch with us. We'll guide them on how to take the registrations. So let's do the right things is what I would like to emphasize. IP is all about that. And ignorance is not bliss in intellectual property. That we must remember always. And that is, and GI is no exception to that. So as I sum up, I would say that these are some of the takeaways for all of us. This is some kind of a food for thought. I feel that all of us can join hands some way or the other. So the least that all of you youngsters can do is, my dear friends, on social media, I'm sure a lot of you are so active as youngsters, and you will be tweeting or you'll be putting it on the wall, Facebook and all of that. Why don't you popularize our GIs, our artisans? They are our lifeline, right? And as I've said, that they are our pride and mirror our rich heritage and culture. Let's talk about them, tweet about them, try to encourage them, and see in whatever little way we pass on this information to people, and even to the millennials of the day who order stuff on Flipkart, Amazon, and all the other portals and e-commerce sites. Can be the millennials of the day, I'm addressing also others. You can just pass on this message. Can all of them and us also try to patronize some of these artisan products as mementos, as gifts? As I said, no dearth of occasions. So we can start thinking on those lines. And we've also started doing that. And we have actually come up with a GI store in our basement, 2,000 square feet. I invite all of you, when you come to Bangalore, and people who are right now, listening to me from Ballari or across the country as well, I invite all of you to come to our office here, which is flanked in between Yes Bank and Visvesvaraya Museum on Kasturba Road. You can just come and take a look at our 2,000 square feet expanse, where we have tried to showcase few of the potential GIs of Karnataka. And this is also like a sensitization platform and giving some kind of a boost and thrust to the GI artisans and producers. So please come, people, come over, not just for the GIs, but also to get information on how to do exports, how to add to the country's exchequer, how all of us together can be a catalyst in the journey of uplifting our artisans and adding to the socio-economic fabric of not just the state, but this country. On that note, I close here. Thank you so much. Here are my coordinates. You can make a note. Somebody has put those markings. Can somebody remove it? So you can just visit our website for information about our organization, and anything that you want to reach out, we are always there, a phone call away. So thank you so much for your time. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. Thank you so much.